Hannah, lovely to meet you. I hope everyone enjoyed this incredible film. I know we just have about 20 minutes. We'll try to get in as much as possible, and there's so much to talk about. First, Hannah, I just want to touch quickly on your journey in the industry, because it's a super interesting one. So can you tell us a bit about how you started, what your background is, and how that then led to you making this super interesting, very relatable to today's day and age film?
Well, by the way, nice that you're here, and I hope you like the film. My journey into this film actually began when I did a PhD in medical genetics, and I have always loved film, but I went to study genetics and went to study medical genetics, and then I did these patient trials and developed a gene therapy and during the day, and then I did this mistake that during the nighttime I started doing horror films, like these funny little horror films in the laboratory, first with my sister, and then when the rest of my scientist colleagues saw the little films, they wanted to do more films, and suddenly the horror films just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and by the time I finished doing my PhD, I decided that I wanted to actually go to film school and study directing, which I got to AFI in, and that's where this film is kind of from. This is my first feature, and I wanted to tell a story about a medical trial and the life stories of kind of like people I know, and I guess my life stories in a way in the film.
Interesting. Can we talk a bit more about the process of de-aging? What really fascinated you about this concept, and can you walk us through the process from starting from the whole idea, from the concept, into actually making it into a screenplay, and obviously coming from a very medical background, as you say, and making it a super creative project with a very personal stories as well involved?
Well, so this research, de-aging, people are studying it right now. It's a hot topic. They're making steps about, further understanding why we age, why it is in our genes, this code that says that it's time to die, basically, and how we could just say, don't die, go back. I studied, the more and more I read about these studies, the more I realize that what if one day this thing would be reality? One day there's one lab where they discover this thing and we can go back in time, we can de-age, grow younger. And it just started feeling like if this happened and you would be the first person to do this thing, it would be actually more interesting what would happen to you, because we're so used to just, being born and growing up and growing old and dying. And what if suddenly you could just start hopping and you have no idea, no idol, nobody to look up to, what to do. And there's so many things that you would have to figure out about. You would be alone with your problems, your own mental issues about these things, and how the society would see yourself. So that's kind of like the story of their story, how they deal with this thing.
Yeah, and you really kind of made a clear line between the very medical and scientific element to the actual storytelling, and again, coming from my scientific background, how was that for you, really focusing on the story? Because as the audience has just seen, we don't really see the trials or what is actually happening, and suddenly you see the de-aging process. So why did you kind of keep that away from the film as well, and make us have our own understanding of what these patients actually have been through?
I think that actually came because I was a scientist in the medical field. So when you do medical science or medical research, of course you tell the patients who are part of that trial that what is this thing about, what is it trying to achieve, and basics of how it's going to happen. But the people in trial, because they're not scientists, they don't necessarily understand everything that is going on. And I wanted the story to be about the patients, not the scientists, but the patients who go through it, and how much they would understand, how much they would actually want to even know what the, what is it, basically would be interested, what does it do? What's going to happen, to me? So kind of take the POV.
It leaves us very curious as the audience, like how, when.
Yeah.
And then I want to go into the lead characters. I mean, and the story of the man and the woman, and both of them actually react to the whole de-aging process in completely different ways, as we've seen. Can you talk a bit more about that? Why was it so important for you to show that the men actually reacted very differently to how the woman reacted?
So from the very beginning, there was two characters. There's one who would kind of find the hope from realizing the dreams that weren't possible when he or she were young in like 50s and 60s. And then there was the other character who had the past trauma that kind of dragged them enough that we all have something that it's like really hard to just forget, or just to kind of like move on actually. It doesn't have to be a traumatic, or it is some sort of traumatic experience, and I wanted the other character to have that. And when we were developing this, actually, this was done in Biennale College Cinema program where this movie got to, and we were like so lucky as a team to get into that program and their funding. But when we were there, it just got more and more clear that I also wanted to have this female and male perspective, because history is so different when you have been a man and when you're a woman, and kind of like how biology does dictate in a way your choices and what you can get in life, especially in different eras. And when you think about people who were born in like during the World War II, how much change they have been through, and now they would be back and be Generation C, so it's, how would you deal with that?
100%, and we spoke a bit behind the scenes, and Hannah, you also revealed that men and women tend to react completely differently to the film, so that's quite interesting, and we might leave some time for Q&A as well, so explore that a bit.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting how of course not everybody, this is like generalizing, but women tend to understand, for example, her character and her choices quite a bit, and men more Juhani and his choices and less Opetello. But yeah, it's very interesting how it happens, yeah.
And now also we have the editor of the film in the room, so I want to talk a bit more about the process. How did the production come about? How was it working with the whole crew, and also the actors, and maybe some of the casting process?
So yeah, this is actually, the production is like, so it was kind of miracle, this film, because we got, we competed for the Biennale College with the Venice Film Festival funding. And we won the funding, one of 4 projects that got it. It was 150,000 euros. So we have basically no money, but we got 9 months, and then we, premiered in Venice. And we got so lucky because there were so many people who just jumped into and really related to the script. We had students who helped during the production, who became amazing professionals during it. And our producers, like one of them was from New York, Cyril, and who's actually here right now. That was perfect timing, by the way. So he came from New York, and he produced this in Finland. And then Tarek, who's in the audience, he was actually in San Francisco. And he actually, during the daytime, he edited Star Wars animation, and during the night he edited this film. I don't know how he survived this process, but we for 2 months or something, or even less than, because we didn't have time. Unfortunately, we went through every single, especially the transitions and everything, because the cast was amazing. We got I think the best of the Finnish talents, and of course, like the 11-year-old girl, by the way, this is her first film. She's never acted in anything, but in editing everything, we were really like doing this transitions and everything just to make everything work. Yeah, but I mean, I feel I was spoiled as a director because there was so much just amazing talent in here. So it was just so, thank you for everybody.
Sounds like a beautiful process you went through. I'd like to know, what do you expect as the director for the audience to take away from it, and what is a message that you hope the world will take from this film as well?
I think maybe not an answer, but I would want people to actually after this think about what would you do if this would happen to you? Like, depending what age you are, but imagine, for example, going back to being like a 7-year-old in an elementary school or something and being there with the kids or something, or just starting again. Like, I think everybody has done choices in their life and kind of going back and forth. I would want to just kind of give that idea that what if this could happen? What would you do, and how much actually the world kind of defines you of the things that you have done, and can you kind of forgive yourself or just like let go of the stuff that you have, you're carrying these memories with you.
And Hannah is a medical scientist, so these things might be happening. Start thinking about them right now. How much back do you want to go? What is the future for you? I know that there is something very exciting happening with this project into development. Do you want to explain a bit more, and where you're hoping it goes to, and how far?
Well, I don't know if you can sense that we did a lot of development with Cyril in the Biennale Cinema program, and during the post and production about this world. So there's a lot of this world, a lot of the reactions of the society, a lot of the other people who are in the program. So we would love to kind of tell their stories and make it into maybe a TV series that hopefully would see the light of day someday.
We'll keep an eye out, a TV series, maybe in Finnish, maybe in English. Yeah. We don't know. Okay, it's interesting. I'd like to open up the floor to questions, if we have any.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Thanks for a very interesting and thought-provoking film. Also very emotional. Something, as I'm getting older, I notice how everybody looks at me differently, and I'm treated completely differently. I don't know if it's true for all people as they age, but I feel exactly the same as I did when I was 16. And unless I end up like losing my marbles, hopefully that will continue. So that you played around with some interesting issues about if you go backwards, are you still the same person? Could you say more about that whole issue? I think you're trying to deal with it scientifically, but there's also, I think, a philosophical point in there, which is very interesting.
Yeah, so actually one of the things that was very important with especially when we're talking with my cinematographer Henry, is that we want to have that idea or cliche maybe in the beginning, is where these elderly people who are in the hospice kind of situation, they are treated a little bit like object, like their opinions don't matter anymore. You're just people don't even talk to you, and that was very important because the world starts seeing them differently. They're starting to be treated differently, and that is one of the things about the Tell Luz. Her story is about the fact that they're both mentally sharp, even in the very beginning. But the way their memories, they are the same people, and the only way she could kind of like have a fresh start would be because clean slate. So in a way, like Juhani, he just continues his journey. He is the same person, but he just he's able to build upon the life that he already had, like the memories, even if they were good or bad. So that was kind of really, really important thing in the film.
Thank you.
Any more questions? I'll give here, and then I'll pass, and then you can pass it on to him.
No problem. Hi, congratulations, first of all. Really enjoyed it. I was just curious touch briefly about the casting process, especially I think it's the 5 actresses who play the women. It's 5, yeah. What order did you slot those in? And did you have sort of alternate blonde versions that you had to cancel out because you went for that particular look, or how did that work? Because it sounds like quite a game of chess to get them all.
Yeah.